Good?
Yep, you're live.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome back. If you're here earlier, I told you I was going to do a misfire diagnostic on a Highlander. If you're just joining us, we'll wait a few more minutes as well as people trickle in. 2008 Toyota Highlander. It came in for check engine light. Scanned it for codes. It had a misfire code. It's been sitting out in the lot for about a month. Battery was dead, so the codes are cleared. Let's go ahead and go through and diagnose this thing. What I want from you guys is if you have a suggestion or if you want something checked as we go through this, then just put it in the chat. I have Valerie on the computer. She's going to read the chat, and I kind of want you guys to play along with this and point me in which direction to go. Do we have anyone in here yet?
Yeah, Michael and Gaston.
Okay, so I guess I can start it up. We can see if it'll set a misfire code again. I believe it has a rough idle. I took some stuff apart just to make the testing process easier. But let me plug the scan tool in. We'll start it up. We'll run it. See if the light will start flashing and see if we can get some codes. If you want questions?
No, it's just a comment. Dang, don't you ever leave the shop and relax?
Not very often.
Nope.
So the audio will be a little noisy for a minute. Let me get the scan tool set up, and hopefully it'll start setting some codes as it runs here. It is running a little bit rough right now, so it shouldn't take too long.
Michael says, start with a relative compression test.
You don't want to see what codes are in it first? Okay, so we're showing cylinder 1 misfires. Let me see if it's actively counting them. Oh, I find it camera on this, right?
Is that the 3.5 V6?
Yes, it is a 3.5 liter V6.
The Yoder V-Soda? And that's the time, please.
It is 8:32.
Scanner or you?
Back on me. So we had a P0301 cylinder 1 misfire. Pulled up data. It is actively counting misfires. So I had one suggestion of where we should go next. Were there any other ones?
Nope, just the relative compression test.
That was from Mike?
Yep.
Okay, so relative compression check. That's where you want to go first. I don't think Toyotas will do a clear flood. I can try it. I'll simulate it real quick. If it won't do the clear flood, then I'll have to pull the injector fuse. Okay, it did not perform the clear flood. I think most of these have a fuse that is for the injectors. I can't remember if they label it as injector. So there's injector number 1 and injector number 2. I think one of those is actually for the coils, but we'll see if we can pull out the one for the injectors.
Keith says hi.
Hey Keith, how's it going? Catch you up. We're doing Misfire diagnostic P0301. Mike asked me to do a relative compression check first thing.
If Dr. O was here, he would have had you do a visual inspection first.
A visual?
Walk around and just look at it. Did you watch Dr. O?
There's an engine there. I don't see anything unplugged or unhooked. And I actually think that these two fuses are flip-flopped according to the diagram. So I pulled out a 15 amp fuse. I'm not sure if that's the coils or the injectors. I'll just go ahead and pull both of them for now until we pull up the repair information. Let's crank it again, make sure that it doesn't start, and then we'll get some equipment hooked up to do the relative compression. Okay, if you guys noticed that, it did have a slight cadence change as it cranked over. One cylinder is either high or low. It's kind of hard to tell. It sounded like it was low. So there's two ways we can check the relative compression. One is just voltage at the battery. And then if we choose to, we can invert the signal to make it look more like amperage. Or we can do an amperage waveform. I'll go ahead and throw this up on here. And then once I get the stuff hooked up, I'll jump into Valerie's seat to set up the picoscope. We also could have done it with the scan tool, but I got the picoscope hooked up as well.
Would you like a comment?
Sure.
Yes, Tom. As a side note, I find each year about 2 of those 3.5 V6 engines with coolant leaks at the intake manifold gasket. Take a peek in the valley and see if you see crusty Toyota coolant. And Keith says, Val, we need to talk about bringing Chad to the bins. I mean, the stuff he picks out, sheesh.
Yeah, I found this shirt there. It's really weird. I don't know who would throw away a shirt like this. And I don't know where Cody's at, why he's not watching right now. I guess I should have posted it up so he would be aware of it. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and throw the amp clamp and the leads onto the battery just so we have both of them there. Do we want anything else hooked up? I'm going to pull the diagram real quick and see which one of those fuses went to the injectors. That way when we're ready we can hook a sync up to one of the coils. I'm going to jump into your seat.
Would you like some comments while you do that?
Sure.
Michael lit another cigar just for this live stream. Billy, relative sounds okay. Let's see what Pico thinks.
Okay, so let me jump into the picoscope. We'll get some stuff set up. On the battery voltage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drop this down to maybe 5 volts. We'll go AC coupled. And then channel B is where I have the 600 amp clamp. Let's see.
Gonna make me pull the cell phone card, eh?
Cell phone card. You're gonna have to call in?
Oh, he asked if I was gonna be doing the test, and I said no.
Oh.
I didn't think I needed to read that out loud.
Okay, I'm going to throw some more time up on the screen as well. Since I have the amp clamp hooked up, I'm going to throw a trigger on that just so it doesn't walk off the screen here. And I'll say once it jumps over 100 amps is where we want to start. Let's go ahead and do this. Actually, Valerie can jump over there and crank the vehicle for us. So just crank it for about 5 seconds.
Okay, just don't put the camera on me.
Yep. Okay. It didn't. One more time. Okay. Let me flip the amp clamp around because obviously I have it on backwards. But for those of you that were paying attention, you can see some deviation in the voltage. Go ahead and go again. Okay, we're going to stop that and we'll zoom in on it. Yeah, you're done. A lot of noise on there. It's probably because I'm running my Picoscope through a USB hub. My laptop, oh, I'm trying to change settings here. My laptop doesn't have enough inputs for me. So we could have changed this a little bit. I'll just zoom in and activate filtering on that one too to get rid of the noise. So we got some issues there. Now, if you're wondering why these waveforms are inverted, that's because we are measuring voltage on one and current on the other one. As you can see, they're a mirror image, so you don't have to have an amp clamp for this. You can do this with just voltage, and then if you want it to represent an amp clamp, then you can just invert it afterwards. So on this top one, every low spot is a drop in voltage, which is a compression stroke. This one right here, it's kind of hard to tell. It looks like the voltage was dropping more. So is that higher compression than normal? It's hard to say. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not really sure what's going on there. It definitely, if we look at the amperage one, it's, we have one peak that's higher amperage. So what do you guys want me to check next? Do you want me to put a sync on there? We already know that it's setting codes for cylinder 1. So we could go for that one, but that one is underneath the intake manifold, so that's not the easiest to get to. It'll take me about 15 or 20 minutes to pull the intake manifold off to actually get to that cylinder and test it. So let me pull up, I'm going to pull up the diagram real quick and we'll find out exactly which fuse I can put back in for the ignition system. And unfortunately I didn't make a tab for ProDemand on here, so you guys probably won't be able to view this. So I'll try to do it really quick.
Pico the person says hi. It's going to make this confusing if you're using your Picoscope and Pico Boo is here.
And anyone that is joining us late, 2008 Toyota Highlander misfire code. We just got done with a quick relative compression check. There is some anomalies. I'm going to pull a wiring diagram to find out which fuse actually goes to the coils so we can set up a sync, unless somebody has another recommendation.
Chase, got nothing but time.
And this is a 3.5 liter engine. It is not the 3.3 liter hybrid. And I have not looked in the intake yet, or underneath the intake, for coolant leaks.
Keith? Wand?
Okay, so you want me to make sure that coil's firing with the coil unplug pickup wand? I can do that. Let me grab the wiring diagram. Do you want that cranking or running, Keith?
You have to give it a second. There's some lag.
Okay. I'm still looking up the fuse for the ignition coils. We will be done in just a second with that.
Wand for cinch.
The wand for the sync, okay.
Sync.
Okay, I still got to get the fuse back in for the ignition coils. So fuse number 1 goes to the coils. Let me grab the wand. Got it on my cart here somewhere.
Make a list of words.
Valerie actually grabbed it earlier and asked me why I have this orange handled wand, and I leave it on my cart all the time. So let me put that fuse back in. We will stick the wand back there. Since we can't hook up to the wire directly, we can at least find out which one is cylinder number 1 with the wand.
Main camera?
Yeah. And I think I have, good, I got the lead for the wand. So as usual, Keith, you're up late. We got started about half hour later than we were expecting to. I definitely need to build a desktop streaming rig because I'm out of inputs on my laptop. And I want to hook more stuff up. Let's see if we can get that in there. Let me put the fuse back in. According to the diagram, number 1 is the coils. I can barely see number 1. So we need to tell Picoscope that we have the COP wand connected to channel 3. We definitely don't need 100 kV for that. I normally don't get over 3 or 4 when I use the wand. This one we can definitely turn down, and that should be good. Are we running? We are running. You want to crank it again?
I'd love to. Thanks for asking. Same, 5 seconds?
Yep, Valerie's going to crank it for 5 seconds. Let me zoom back out here. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. And like I said, forgive the noise. I'm running a longer USB cable than normal, and it's connected to a USB hub. So I did get a small pulse right here. We're just getting into the relative compression check, PJ. The vehicle had a P0301 cylinder 1 misfire. Keep zooming in too far here. And we just added the COP wand on there to get a sync. I forgot I zoomed this way in, that's why. Okay. Turn that down a few clicks as well. So there is our cylinder 1 ignition. So that would be our compression. Oh, you can hop out if you want. As I leave Valerie in the car. So I'm pretty sure that that little pulse there is for cylinder number 1. I didn't get a great signal off of that. I could adjust it a little bit, but let's see. We have another one here and another one here, and that lines up pretty close to where we were. So let me get those cursors out of the way, and I think I see where he said it is number 1, and we could probably see that a little better if I put a cursor on our amp clamp here.
So did you see that message then? If you saw Keith's? These intake coolant leaks, that one?
Oh, so it leaks into the engine from the intake. No, I have not seen that. So that must be on the lower intake because the upper's all plastic. I just assumed that you meant that that rubber hose that's right underneath the lower intake, because I see that one leak quite a bit. Okay, let me zoom in on one engine cycle here. So here's number one right there, and as you can see, it pulls drastically lower than these other four, and since the engine starts spinning faster because of that low compression, then we get a weird spike afterwards.
Pico, cranking cadence isn't uniform.
No, you can definitely hear an odd sound when you crank it over now that we have the fuel injector disabled.
R&R gasket is around 23 hours as engine has to come out. Gaston.
I don't know if we'll have time for that in the live stream. So any other testing that we want to do? So we believe that cylinder 1 has low compression. So we need to find out where it's going. Is it the rings, intake exhaust valve, head gasket? Those are our possibilities for low compression. Even if the intake gaskets are leaking coolant into the cylinder, it shouldn't change. It shouldn't lower the compression. If anything, it would raise it by sealing the ring to the wall. So what's the next test? And I'm very aware of the labor time on these engines because I did timing chains and VVT gears on one. And unfortunately, I had to do it twice because the first time we didn't replace all the gears and it came back with noise.
Drew says hey, and Pico says it's definitely not a 22R.
No. Is that what the stream came up as? Hopefully not. I tried to make sure that the stream came up with the correct title this time, but you're probably referring to the last big live stream where we tore down that engine and then we reassembled it. Next step.
We're waiting.
Okay.
There's a pretty big lag.
Okay. Let me jump in front of the other camera, and I'll show you some of the tools that we have to work with. See what you guys want to see next. Some of you that know me and seen some of my other videos probably know what tools I have available.
Michael says gotta go in cylinder.
I can't go in cylinder easily. I'd have to pull the intake off. We can do that, but we can't run it at that point. We can check compression. It won't take that long to pull the intake off, but in case there's any other testing that you guys want done before we pull the intake, then let me know.
Pico, yep. Drew, yes, I agree.
So pull the intake.
PJ, I wouldn't go in cylinder for cylinder 1. That's a pain to get into. Michael, either leak down or pressure transducer.
We have a pulse sensor. Would that tell us if it's a intake valve or exhaust valve? Possibly. I do have a WPS. We can check in cylinder, but we're only going to be able to check cranking only. And at that point with the intake off, I think I would skip that step and go straight for a leak down test.
Keith, intake pressure transducer, please.
Okay.
PJ, intake or a pulse sensor in the radio?
In the what?
Radio? Not a question, just me adding the high pitch at the end.
Oh, in the radiator?
Yes, he corrected it. Thank
Okay.
you.
I was gonna say, I don't think we're gonna check the radio.
Yeah, you gotta be very specific with me reading the comments.
Let me see if we can suspend this a little bit.
Drew, intake pressure, pulse sensor, Orville 58. Hey, I made it.
Okay, so I have Cody's auto diagnostic pulse sensor here. It's worked great for me. Another one out there is the Nicholson pulse sensor, and if you want to spend more money, the FLS, the first look sensor. But I got the Cody's. Wearing a shirt today. If you guys haven't seen his channel, go ahead and check it out. I'm going to jump back on the laptop, set up my ranges for this one, and then we'll have Valerie crank it again. If we don't see anything obvious just on the regular cranking, then I'll put the injector fuse back in and we'll start it up.
Keith, radiator would be fun if it had negative pressure. Thank you, face. 5 seconds? Can I just
Yeah,
assume?
1 sec. I gotta. Let me get this picoscope set up. So channel, I think I'm on channel 4 here.
Keith, Cody, and Nicholson both make a great sensor.
We'll start at like 5 volts on the pulse sensor. Well, just cranking, we can probably, yeah, we'll start there. If we need to adjust it, then I'll have you crank it again. I really wish that I didn't have so much noise on my signal. Let me see if it's that power cord. Nope. I don't want to move stuff too much and have have the whole thing go down. So 5 more seconds. Yep. Okay. I need more voltage on the screen. Again. Okay. We need more voltage on the screen. We're clipping out. We could probably work with that signal, but it's best to get as much range as we can. Again. Okay, we're going to work with that one. So let me zoom in. That's showing a pretty good... I wish every vehicle was this obvious, because that right there is just horrendous for an intake pulse. It tells the whole story. Let me see if I can arrange these a little bit easier to see. Yeah, you can come back. So we can barely see. I gotta turn that one back up a little bit. Right here is our cylinder number 1 ignition pulse. Here was our sync, or since that's our sync, this is our compression pulse, which was low, and that's where we have a big spike in the intake manifold. So we have an intake valve sealing issue. That is very apparent.
Gaston, check coolant system next. Pressure test to rule out any observable leaks.
Okay, let me change inputs.
Terrific. Let's hear the story.
Okay, so just so you guys know, I checked this one out about a month ago, and it's been sitting in our lot ever since. The customer bought a new vehicle, decided to sell this one to me, so I figured it was a perfect vehicle to use for this diagnostic process. Do you guys want to see anything else? I heard pressure check the cooling system. If we have an intake valve sealing issue, we're gonna have to pull the heads anyways, so we'll be resealing all of that. Do you still want to see? I mean, I can hook a pressure gauge up and we can let it sit for a little bit while we do some other testing, because I won't have to take any coolant lines off if we decide to pull the intake manifold. I know at this point most of you guys would call it. You would let the customer know, hey, we have an intake valve sealing issue. We're gonna have to go deeper into the engine. Do you want us to go deeper? Do you want us, or do you, at that point, do you just sell the valve job? If PJ's still in here, I think these are shimmed, and I think they're a very small shim on top of the valve stem, and then there's a bucket or a follower on top of that. Is that correct, PJ? So you can't really do a valve adjust easy on these without pulling the camshaft. So I suppose we could pull the intake, pull the rear valve cover, and check the clearances. And if there was one that was tight, we could maybe try to get in there and adjust it. Any comments?
Question from Keith. 100% intake valve sealing? Question mark.
Am I positive? I mean, that's what it looks like. We have a strong pressure pulse in the intake manifold during the compression stroke of number 1 cylinder. Open to your suggestions on what else it could be or what else we could check.
Billy says, good job. Drew's Auto, are we going to put an overlay on capture?
I don't know if I have that one on here. Let me see if I do. I might.
PJ, no, the buckets come in different thicknesses for the engine.
Okay.
Gaston. I got the Nicholson sensor about 6 months ago.
Have you had a chance to use it? I only started using Cody's about a week ago as the first chance I had to use it. We've been so busy that I haven't had time to play around with new tools and toys. Let's see. I thought for sure. There we go. Pressure waveform overlays. You guys can't see that. Okay, I may have to make some adjustments for you guys to be able to see what I can see on the screen. While I'm getting this set up, anything else, just go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll put it in the queue for testing or for answers.
They're talking to each other, but I can read that to you if you'd like.
Okay.
Kenneth McKee is asking Gaston how much transducer. Gaston is answering about $70.
If I remember correctly. Okay.
Keith, I'll be driving and listening. Sorry. Have another 2 hours in crazy drunk driver traffic out here.
Keith working late as always.
Wear your seatbelt, Keith.
Let me see. I'm hoping I can add a capture while I'm currently using the software. That's what I'm hoping. It wouldn't let me do a display capture earlier, so.
Gaston, how many miles on that 3.5 in the Highlander?
I believe it's around 150,000 miles. I may be mistaken though. Okay, that didn't work.
Chris Martino, what is yellow trace?
That's not working. Okay, I can't put the waveform up on the screen due to software issues. But let me go back to the Picoscope and I'll be able to tell you guys. The yellow trace is our, let me get myself out of the way. The yellow trace is the pulse sensor that I have on the intake manifold. So let me zoom back into a little over 1 revolution of the engine. The green trace is very noisy, but this little pulse right here is the sync that we have. Of course, cross rockets racing outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. But this little trigger right here was our coil unplug wand that we have on cylinder number 1. I can expand our amperage real quick.
Chris, can you zoom in to 1720?
Okay, let me get that out of the way.
And then PJ, I know that you could see valve overlap in an exhaust waveform. I'd like to see the pulse sensor in the exhaust just to see what a bad intake valve looks like from that angle.
Okay, we can do that too.
Pico, is there another way to prove your thoughts?
The next step would be, let me turn this on real quick. The next step to actually prove it would be to pull the intake manifold, either do a compression check or a leak down test in that cylinder. And that's where I would prefer to go next, but just non-invasive testing, if you guys have any other options before we get in that far.
Chase, I thought that crotch rocket was outside my house.
It might be. We could be hearing it from there. It's hard to say. Okay, here's Chris Martino. If this is what you wanted to see, this is 720 up on the screen. So I got the cursors on my ignition sync there and there. So that's going to be when the coil fires, which during cranking won't be as advanced, so maybe 10 degrees advanced. But then again, we're looking at the compression waveform here, and we're lower than the other cylinders. Not a whole lot else we can see at this point. The pulse in the intake could be delayed just a tiny bit from the compression stroke as it goes past the valve. So my theory is still intake valve sealing issue.
Chris, looks like intake sealing to me. Put it in the exhaust.
Okay. So let me save this capture real quick.
Or go in cylinder, Chris. Yes, put it in the exhaust, Drew.
Okay, I'm going to go stick that sensor in the exhaust. I may have to move some stuff around to get the pulse sensor back that far. You guys can't see me. So I will be right back. Valerie will still read comments while I do that, and then we can switch to the underhood and I'll unhook all this stuff. Or you can entertain.
No, thank you. Which camera do you want it on?
You can put it on this one here.
Gotcha.
Okay, got one from Pico. So the pressure peak is the pressure escaping from the cylinder into the intake?
Correct. The pulse sensor can't tell what the absolute pressure is. It's all kind of relative. So it only detects movement of pressure. So as we crank it over, the intake is probably under a slight vacuum, so it has a quick adjustment period, and then it can see each pull of the next cylinder, and then the rise after that pull is just the vacuum lessening. And when we get a sharp rise like that, it's probably the compression escaping that cylinder back into the intake. And the intake may still be under vacuum. We could tell absolute pressure if we use the WPS, but we'd have to zoom in quite a bit. Or run it in zoom mode, and then we don't really have the absolute pressure at that point. We're running more like a pulse sensor. We might have enough here. Let me know if I'm going to unplug anything. Do I have a little bit of slack?
That's about it.
I'm going to see if I can reach this to the back. Just barely.
That's as far as you can take it. Your line's pretty tight.
Yeah. Got a little bit of slack there. Okay, hopefully nothing will break. I tripped over one of my leads a few months ago. It's probably 6 weeks ago. Busted one of the inputs off of the Pico. Luckily I have two of them, and I sent one in to get fixed. I'll switch your spots again. So we can go back to the Pico scope. We'll leave our voltage the same on the pulse. We may have to adjust it slightly because the pulses probably aren't going to be as dramatic at the tailpipe. And I'm fairly new with pulse sensor testing. I don't do it a lot, so I don't have a lot of experience.
Pico, something I learned from Frank Massey is there is no such thing as vacuum. It is less than atmospheric pressure.
I can see that as being true. But
And then somebody called you cute.
was it you? Okay.
Chase says don't break the Pico.
I still have another. I got my other one back, so we got two. And we could always go with the snap-on scope if we have to. We're going to have Valerie go ahead and crank it. Did you want, PJ, you didn't specify if you wanted to see running compression, or running or cranking pulses in the exhaust. So we'll go cranking first. If we don't see anything definitive, then we will we'll put the injector fuse back in and crank it over again.
You can read that comment while I head over there.
Yep. Okay. Okay, we are going to have to zoom way in or change our scale a lot. Let's try it at 2 volts. Go ahead. Okay. Let's go even more than that. Again. We're kind of getting ready to max out. We'll try it at 1 volt. Go ahead. Now, I think we will see a difference here just because the cranking velocity changes. If I looked at this pattern on a normal vehicle, I wouldn't pick anything out. You're good for now. Let me know if there's... Unfortunately, I can't display the piston chart up on the screen. The streaming software is not wanting to do a display capture, and I don't know if that's an update issue or what, because I used to be able to do it, and now I can't.
How far are you in the comments? You don't want to reread anything you've already answered?
I haven't read all of them.
You already read the one.
Yeah, the waveform overlay tool that I have, it doesn't want to display up on the screen for some reason. I can try it again here. Let me see real quick.
You want a question or you want me to wait?
You can read a question.
What about using the 4 strokes of an engine Super Mario used in one of his videos? Not sure who got the chart from.
And that might work better than the app that I'm using, because this one will not display for some reason.
Brent, are you referring to the piston chart the Forest watches? Yes. Are you adding a screen because your background's black? You're there, but your background's
Yeah, I was trying to add a screen, but it will not capture that app.
Chris, cranking. Drew's, cranking is best first.
Okay. I can't get that to display, and I don't have another one installed on my laptop currently for the waveform overlay tool. So we'll have to make do.
Chris Martino, okay. Go in cylinder, I saw enough.
Okay, so we have to pull the intake. Real quick, just for capture's sake, let's get one running, just to save it in case PJ wants to see something different. So let me save this one real quick. I'll have to go back and label these. FLS in the exhaust.
I'm going to go ahead and just read all of these to you, because I'm not
Okay.
sure if any of them are actually addressed to you. Gaston, I got the overlay charts from AES Wave, made by the drivability guys, a few months back. Still trying to get my head around them and understand.
The one that I use is actually available in the Windows 10 App Store. I have a different one on my other laptop, but the one that I use on the Windows 10 I just got from the App Store. It's just called Pressure Waveform Overlays. But I also have the one from Rod Myers or Mayers. I believe I got that one from the Auto Nerds group. Okay, I'm going to put the fuse back in, and then we can start it up. And I know that all of our pulses are going to be way different running, so we'll have to adjust the scales again.
PJ, you can use your rulers right in the pico, and we can tell roughly where the exhaust stroke is. Sorry.
Okay, we can... Oh, of course I closed it. Okay, well, I closed that capture. If I open up another window, the display software may not switch over to that one. We'll find out real quick.
Keith, send me a snapshot on Messenger. I'm not sure he's talking to you or someone else. Super Mario, what I miss.
Okay, Mario's here.
Keith, full screen 720.
Yeah, it's not doing the other one. So Keith wants a snapshot of this.
Bryn, like Chris, I think the Diag is done, but going in cylinder will seal the deal.
Okay, we're taking a picture and we are sending that to Keith.
You can copy and paste and put into Paint and share that copy. That's Chris Martino
Where do you guys want it shared at?
with a screen snip.
Give me 1 second. I should be able to share it.
Drew's letting us know that there's a 35-second delay from chat and video. Yeah, it's
Pretty long.
yeah. I can see it too because I can see it on your computer versus my phone.
Okay. And it could be because we're all the way in Colorado. I don't know. Sometimes it runs better than that. Sometimes we're about a 5-second delay, but otherwise, very long delay.
You can put the overlay on, use the snipping tool, and share that. Chris Martino. Mario, what's up, PJ? Had to go back. Looks like intake valve leakage.
Yep, sorry Mario, trying to work out a few bugs here. So now that I have that captured, let me do the waveform overlay tool. I'll throw it on there and I'll see if I can post up the image. Trying to work through it, guys.
PJ, alright everyone, I have an early morning, leaving for a little vacation. It was fun chatting and I'll catch the rest of this tomorrow.
Okay, see you later. Thanks for joining.
Bye. The Forest watches. Perhaps with cylinder 1 at top dead center, your valves should be closed, so you might have an open valve that should be closed.
And that's what we're suspecting is... Where's my sink at? We're suspecting intake valve is not closing or sealing properly. And I was trying to get the waveform overlay shared with you guys, but then I ran into difficulties with that. So I'm going to try and share, I'll put the waveform overlay on here first, and then I'll share that image. I didn't capture the sync on that one.
Gaston. Our shop took on a fleet of limos and shuttle buses this year for AC service, and I've been working mostly on AC for the past few months in this brutal heat. Gotta get the pulse tester out again soon.
Yeah, it's not something I use a lot, so I'm definitely not as familiar with it as, say, like Mario. I believe Mario has said that in any vehicle that comes in with a misfire, he does a relative compression check, and then that lets him know if it's a mechanical issue or if he needs to go down ignition and fuel paths. Okay, we're almost done putting the waveform up here. I do have to look up firing order, but I don't have that memorized for this one. It could just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I can't quite remember on the Toyota. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Simple enough. I'm almost done with the overlay. Number of cylinders 6.
Mario, I attempt a clear flood first, usually.
This one would not perform the clear flood, Mario. So I had to pull the injector fuse. And this one's not completely labeled. I would be better off with the other overlay tool that I have on my other computer, but we'll go for this one. Oh, and I'm on the exhaust one. Okay. Give me 1 second. Almost there. Or did they want the exhaust one? I think that's what we wanted.
Chris
Okay.
M., which cylinder is leaking?
We have a misfire code for cylinder number 1. So we believe that it is cylinder number 1 that is leaking. We also have a intake pulse that is quite high on cylinder 1. Did I send that one to Keith? Where did I put my phone?
I took it.
Did you send it to Keith?
I didn't send it to Keith.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry.
Can you guys bear with me? Just about there.
Facebook Messenger?
Yeah. Want an image?
This one right here?
Yes. Okay, almost got it. Okay, so you can finally got it. This is a little different than the one that Mario uses. It doesn't have the labels right here. I need to actually make that fit the screen.
Chris Martino, you can get that without taking the intake off. It sucks, but it can be done. Hashtag done that.
After having the wiper cowl off, I can see the number 1 coil, so we may be able to dive in there. So if we are lined up on number 1 for sync here, compression, and this is kind of hard to read because it's so small, so we may not be able to decipher it completely. Yellow is intake, orange is compression, red is expansion, and brown is exhaust. But I really don't see a whole lot of pulse difference at just cranking speed in the exhaust. We saw a lot in the intake, not much in the exhaust. There is a weird anomaly here, which does look like it is, on the exhaust stroke here, because just by our tower cursors, that would be the exhaust pulse for number 1.
They can't see your finger pointing.
Valerie's making fun of me. I'm pointing at the screen. I'm pointing to stuff on the screen that you guys can't see. Oh, man.
Mario, try 6 partitions, Chad. Did I read that right? Partitions? Mm-hmm.
Not sure.
Yeah, no.
6 partitions. Is that an app? You have to explain it to me, Mario. Oh, man. I cracked myself up. Pointing to the screen like you guys are right next to me. You can't see what's going on.
I saw everything.
Valerie saw everything. Okay. Real quick, before I try, jumping into, I don't think I can add 6 partitions with Picoscope software. I have to run another app.
Within Pico, the rulers. Mario. Bryn? No, down at the bottom.
Okay.
Can you guys point to the screen at what you want?
Yep. Okay. Just to make it easier, since my screen capture software is capturing this current screen, I'll have Valerie jump in and crank it again.
Make it 6 rulers in the Pico software.
Is that in the settings? Do I have to change settings? Because I've only ever had the 2 for 0 and 720, and then the other 2 rulers. I guess I've never gone through and changed the settings or preferences to add that in.
Chris Martino, what is the yellow color? The forest watches, you're next to us in our hearts.
The yellow is...
The green dots at the bottom right-hand side. There.
Yeah, I got that. Okay, go ahead and crank it again, and then we'll have a new waveform to work with. Oh, man. So click rulers and choose 6. Let her get this capture real quick, and then we'll change it. Yep. Oh. Okay, you can shut it off. I forgot. I got us all set up for the next step. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Valerie did a great job on that one. Okay, go ahead. She cranked it so good it started up. Okay, let me go back to here, preferences. Yes.
It scared me when it started up.
That's not there. So you guys are going to have to help me here. I've never changed the rulers to 6. Do I right click on the rulers? Maybe?
Little dots at the bottom of the scope screen. Move them to the ignition sync. Then at the bottom there will be a box that says partitions. I'm sorry, it's under rulers.
Okay, we got our ignition sync there. This one didn't pick up so well, but it should be right there. I just don't have the big spike. That one, we need to zoom in a little bit, get it lined up. Too much. Let's take a step back. Okay, we got that. And then, the one that says rulers right at the bottom, the green dot that you guys kept talking to me about.
I've said it like 20 times in the chat.
Okay. Man, I am slacking. Apparently I didn't know that Picoscope had that built in. I've always used the waveform overlay tool. Okay, so 360 degrees is right here. Based off of our ignition waveforms. We're probably off just a little bit, maybe up to 10 degrees, depending on how far advanced the ignition is from peak compression, which I would say is somewhere around the top of that. So we're close. We have 360 degrees is right here. I don't see any obvious difference in the exhaust. Exhaust will take place, somewhere in this area. So they could be this pulse, but sometimes there's also a delay in the exhaust pulses, especially while cranking, we may not have the air velocity to get it to change. If I shoved a rag around that hose in the exhaust, oh, you guys are on it.
Hold on, let me break it so we can figure out how to fix it before it watches.
Oh man.
Bring out the 720 degree rulers. Then at the bottom of your screen, there's a green square. You can change the partitions there. Did you figure it out then?
Yep.
That was Mario.
And I was also, they were correct. I was counting
That was Bryn Klein.
more revolutions of the engine than I needed. Okay. So now we're working with our brain here. I'm glad you guys are with us to see my inexperience with the Picoscope rulers. But we have the exhaust pulse here. And this looks much better. Stuff is lining up a lot better than it was earlier.
Bryn, nothing of value at this time in the exhaust.
Yeah, if I saw this exhaust waveform, I would move on. Other than there's less oscillations on that cylinder. If I was watching this from a normal point of view on a normal running engine, I wouldn't see any significance in a pulse like that either.
Chris. Oh, sorry. Pull the plug.
Okay, let me switch camera views. I'll see if I can get to that coil. If it's going to be too much of a fight, I'll yank the intake off real quick. They're not too bad to get off of here.
Bryn, I believe that your early suspicions are correct. Chris, the only exhaust is fine. Oz, what did I miss?
Oz, you missed all kinds of shots of me not being able to use Picoscope software. And then before that, we did a relative compression check on this 2008 Toyota Highlander. It's got the 3.5 liter engine. Had a misfire code. Mike suggested relative compression check. We did that. It has a funky cylinder. We did intake pulse. It has an intake spike during cylinder number 1 compression stroke. We just stuck the pulse sensor in the exhaust just to see if there was an anomaly there. But now the audience is wanting me to go in cylinder. So I'm going to see if I can get the coil out of number 1. It is underneath the intake. I believe there's one bracket that goes over it. I might be able to pull that bracket and get that one coil out.
In cylinder will seal the deal, Bryn. Billy, customer just called, decline further Diag.
Luckily, I bought the vehicle, but if it was still the customer's, he may or may not let us go further. I mean, at this point, we already know enough to say that we have low compression in one hole, and further diag is required, or engine replacement is required, or valve job is required.
Farah, this is beautiful. Thank you. Kevin Benedict, I hope this isn't a waiter. Chris Martino, gear wrench, unplug the coil, pull it. The Forest watches, waiter's gonna wait. Chris Martino, less than 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to move my prop rod. And I just have this prop rod in here rather than the factory one, so I can get the hood open a little bit further. I'll probably drop it on my head now that everyone's watching. Okay, I'm going to unhook a few leads here.
Mario, I think Diag is done though, and cylinder will show leakage, expansion void, but will it pinpoint a leaking intake valve necessary? Why not go straight to leak down if pulling the plug, fellas?
And that's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do. We got the WPS, but we can't do running compression because I guess we could. If we can get that coil out, we can do running compression.
Pico.
But otherwise, we'll just do a leak down.
Pico, I agree, leak down test also. Bryn, when you go in cylinder, get cranking first, then idle. Is he drinking Bud Light?
Do they make Bud Light in these tiny cans? They probably should, but no, just Pepsi.
For the lightweights?
Yeah, pretty soon at concerts, that's what they're going to sell you. It's going to be $7 for a 6-ounce beer. To what?
As your moderator, would you like me to keep your comments?
Clean?
Yes.
We can go back later and do it. Or is it asking for...
It won't show it. I can read it to you and just leave the word out. But I didn't know if you wanted me to show them or not on your channel.
Oh, okay.
Get a couple adapters on a spark plug socket and sneak that out.
Okay.
That was Chris.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted that.
Okay. Just Valerie's asking me if she could allow a comment. It automatically blocks the comments if there's cuss words. So.
And it ain't my channel, so I'm not gonna. Okay.
No, you can approve it.
Okay, just making sure.
When they start making fun of me, then you can block it. Okay, we almost got the bracket off. Once the bracket's off, I think I can get the coil out.
Customer will be drinking heavily after they realize that engine must come out. Guess on. Michael, you gross Pepsi.
Okay, it looks like a 10 millimeter on the coil.
Bryn, let him learn, then back up what he found with a leak down.
And honestly, sometimes it's faster for me to not use the scope. The reason why we're doing this is purely for educational purposes. If I cranked it over and noticed a inconsistent cranking sound, the first thing I would do is a relative compression check. We already have identified cylinder 1 as misfiring on the scan data, as long as that's correct. If the customer wanted me to go further, I would then jump straight to the leak down test and see if that proved anything. And hopefully it would. We may also have to move this wiring harness.
Mario, LOL Bryn, is it for waveform analysis, or will you see something that condemns specifically the intake valve sealing? Davey, Diet Pepsi for life.
I can't do diet. If it's diet, it has to be diet caffeine free. I think that's what I drank all the time when I lived in Arizona.
Mario, analysis. Okay, in that case, sure, why not?
Since the customer's not waiting, we can run it.
Bryn, I don't leak down anymore. In-cylinder analysis is faster for me. Pico, I like to proff. P-R-O-F-F.
One more time.
P-R-O-F-F.
Prove, maybe.
I don't know if there's some.
Oh, or likes proof. Okay, got the coil unplugged.
Mario, love the video so far, by the way, Chad. Orville, this is a great video.
Thanks, Mario. They're not always the the most fluent and time efficient videos, but I think each one of these live videos we do, we learn a little bit more. Plus, we get to interact with you guys live. So it's always fun.
The forest watches. I usually sneak a Borescope down the cylinders and visually see if the valves are seated properly. Did I say that right?
It's just a Borescope.
What'd I say?
Boro?
That's what you said.
Borescope?
That's what I said.
Oh, not quite enough extension. You're gonna make me work for it.
Bryn, we will see this in waveform, Mario. Oh.
Other than I'm having a hard time with the waveform overlay. We might need...
Pico, prove what's wrong and then use scope to see what it looks like, because I'm not great with scope yet.
Okay, I really wish I could do the waveform overlay tool on the screen. But I think we would get some more benefit out of that.
Farah, I'm hungry for learning. Thank you for your beautiful time.
Uh-huh. Okay. Hopefully that will get us around the corner of the intake, down the cylinder.
Bryn, put transducer in and go. Leak down means making sure the cylinder is at TDC, then apply air, etc. Gross.
Oh, not quite.
Michael, later y'all, my tablet is about to shut off.
Okay, see you later. Thanks for coming by.
Good night.
I have to get just the right length on this double universal joint to get around the intake and down to that spark plug.
Distinct rides by Davey. Love the Biscayne videos.
Thanks. I really need to get back on that project. That came up earlier in the other live stream. Still working on it. Got a bunch of footage to edit. I ended up missing just a little bit of footage from the last video that I need to finish editing. So it kind of has unmotivated me to work on it with missing steps. Oh, come on.
Bryn, apply smoke, then use Borescope to see smoke leaking past valve. But I still think in-cylinder capture is faster.
Okay, I gotta grab another wobbly.
Did you hear the comment I read from Bryn?
Yes. So apply smoke to the intake manifold. At that point, we still have to make sure that the intake valves are in the correct position to be sealed, but that would give us a wider range to work with. It wouldn't have to be exactly on TDC, so that might work.
Chris, build the extensions on engine, then remove as needed.
I was almost there, Chris. I was using an impact wobbly, and it didn't have enough articulation to get the last extension on.
Pico, I just heard a Cummings go by your shop.
Or is that me running?
No, it was delayed.
Okay.
Bryn, this is better than the movie Lean On Me that I was watching. Thanks to Practical Mechanic.
I don't know if I've heard of that one. I've heard the song.
You've seen it. I've made you watch. You might not have stayed awake, but I've made you watch it before.
I was present in the room while it played on the TV. Okay, I think I got it here.
Hello friends, happy Saturday. 8:30 on a Saturday in the shop, really?
Yeah, it's 9:30 our time. No, this is just for you guys. Okay, so we want in cylinder first. Oh, this is going to be really hard to get the WPS back there, but I'll see if we can do it. I'm going to take this out of the exhaust before I trip on that.
Mario. Bryn, I agree. To a certain point, I mention it constantly. I don't bother with leak downs after proving it either are pulse waveforms, but I thought he'd have to take the intake off, so I figured leak down.
Okay, I got the plug out. So we'll see if we can get this down in there and the WPS. Hopefully it's charged up. I used it for quite a bit the other day.
Bryn, that's not my advice. Chris, some of y'all never change spark plugs on a 4th generation Camaro and it shows.
Yeah, we had one in the shop. It's actually parked outside. And well, that might be a 3rd gen. What's 4th gen? This one was a 91, I think. And I gave it to a different technician. I was not going to be doing it.
Bryn, that's what Hans Jorgensen does? Mario, got 1% in the phone. I'll catch up. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, see you, Mario.
Bye, Mario.
Okay, I got it threaded in there, trying to get the WPS plugged in to the hose. I should make a 45-degree angle adapter.
Pico, I so want WPS.
Yeah, I bought my Pico scope, and then about 6 months later, after I saved up some more money, I got the WPS.
That's turd gen.
That's third gen?
Turd.
Okay.
Alright, sure.
Oh, turd gen. This- that is correct. That's the green car that was in here earlier.
Ah.
The guy said he bought it new. Keeps putting money into it. Not this one, the third gen Camaro. And the seats are holy. We were questioning why he doesn't put seat covers on it at least.
He had like a rug sitting on the part where you sit. Unless you guys put that in there.
No, he had carpet in there.
It was something. It wasn't a seat cover, but it was something.
Okay, this may. Okay, got it. Whew.
Christopher Barone, LT1 engine.
Okay, this had the small block Chevy. It actually has the 5.0. Doesn't even have the 5.7. It's just an RS. But yeah, the LT1 engine. Gotta love those water pumps and distributors.
Oz, when you find the issue, celebrate by drinking your Pepsis like like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I can't say that I've ever seen him drink a Pepsi.
Hot lunch. Auto nerds, best way to buy.
Oh. Okay. I'm hooked up in cylinder. I'm hoping I didn't push the range button to take it off at range number 1. We'll find out real quick once we crank it over. I still have the fuse out. Let me change the settings in the Picoscope and I'll have Valerie crank it over. We'll look at that waveform and then we will put the fuse back in and get a running waveform.
Billy, AES wave. Philip, them bugs loud. Here's where I left off. Just touring you.
Yes, the crickets are very loud. Valerie was trying to hunt them earlier and was unsuccessful. Let's get rid of my cursors. So we are no longer using the pulse sensor. So let's go with WPS range 1. I'm hoping that it stayed on range 1. Otherwise, we're going to have to make some adjustments. I'm going to change my trigger to that cylinder. We'll say 50 pounds. It should be able to make that pressure. Okay, go ahead and crank. Okay. I got a feeling we changed range. So let me jump back in there. I'll try to push the button. If I can see it, I may have to grab a mirror.
If I flicker the lights, will they?
No, they won't come back on. Superman impression. Okay.
Where did you leave off on the comments?
I didn't read any.
Well, there you go. You just read it.
One second.
I can read them to you. I was just.
Okay.
Now where'd you leave off?
I read them all.
Oh, that's fast.
Okay. I changed the range on the WPS. I accidentally pushed the button when I was installing it. We'll have Valerie crank it over again.
Just got.
She just got back over here. And hopefully it'll read correctly this time. Yep. Man, just barely. I'll have you do it one more time, but crank it for like 10 seconds. Okay. Okay. We'll stop it there. Let's see what we can learn from this waveform. That's it. You can come out. So right away I see leaning towers, and leaning towers indicate pressure loss.
This traffic sucks moose balls.
Is that Keith?
Sure is.
Okay, so we're seeing a very deep pocket right here of vacuum. We have uneven towers. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So we don't have a uniform waveform pressure up and pressure down. Anytime they're not the same side to side, I don't know if Pico does the mirroring in frame or not, but anytime they're not the same side to side, we have compression loss. With the deep intake pocket here, that's also because of the compression loss. I don't know if we could prove that the intake is the intake valve, that based off of this, that our intake valve is the problem, unless we added the FLS to the intake as well. Let me save this capture while Valerie goes through the comments.
Pico, has anyone made an in-cylinder pressure transducer that works properly, or just by the WPS? Superman.
Cody's Auto Diagnostic was just talking about he was going to use his homemade pressure transducer, but the car that he was working on, I believe the customer declined further testing, so I don't know if he actually got to use it or not. Actually, no, he did have a waveform, so maybe he can post a video of what that tool looks like, and if it's significantly cheaper to build one versus buy one. I've had my WPS for 2013, I think, or 14 is when I bought mine. I haven't had any issues. I don't use it daily. I know some people have had to send theirs in to get the battery replaced, but I haven't had any issues with mine. Plus, you can use it with it plugged in, so even if the battery was dead, you could probably still use it. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Is there anything we can see from this waveform?
You may catch you up on the comments?
Yes.
Bryn, just buy WPS for the best transducer. Keith, nothing that gives the clarity and usability of the WPS. Bryn, leaning towers and deep exhaust pocket indicate pressure loss.
Okay, but we still don't know where the pressure is going based off of this waveform alone.
Bryn, go back to 4 partitions. Keith, 4 partitions.
Okay, we got 4 partitions on the screen.
Chris, that's an expansion pocket. And the rest is stuff that doesn't apply to what you're doing. Chris, run the car now.
Okay, I'm going to put the injector fuse back in, and we will run the vehicle. Let me get rid of these cursors. We will start over. We don't really have a sync, but we know where we're at, so we'll just call that a starting point. Let me put the fuse back in.
The rest of the conversation is about Keith melting in the heat. Keith, yes, running compression waveform will tell all now.
I really could have zoomed in a little more on that one.
Chris, run the car.
Throw that guy there. This one here. Go ahead. Is there comments?
Keith, breathe, Martino. Bryn, I lied. The RC capture with intake pressure sealed the deal. We really didn't need to go here, but it was fun.
Got tricks.
Keith, awesome, Bryn.
Okay, what other cursors do you want up? So we're still showing a deeper pocket before the exhaust pulse, which is still an indication of pressure loss. It's a little hard to see the leaning towers on this waveform without the waveform overlay tool mirroring it for us.
Chris, you have enough to call leaking exhaust valve.
Intake. We were thinking intake valve. We had the pressure pulse in the intake, but we didn't have anything definitive in the exhaust. Okay, I guess while we have this at the point of where it's at, I'm going to unhook the WPS. We will, if the adapter is long enough, we'll do a leak down test. Oh, then we have to put it on TDC. That's going to be more work. So we'll leave it up to you guys. What do you want to do? Do we call it here and be done for the night, and we really just need to pull the head, which means we got to pull the engine?
Keith, see, I leave for 3 minutes and you're on exhaust valve now.
Oh, we also have tiny beers.
I wish. Billy, customer called again, very determined to not want any more diagnostic fees. Brent, I think that's what Chris meant. Pico, compare it to a known good to see the difference. Chris, valve timing is fine. Keith, call it. Chris, intake is not sealing. Pull the cover.
Pull the valve cover.
Pull the head. Intake, sorry. Bryn, leak indicators can be less obvious at idle than cranking because there's less time to leak. Drew, call it.
The customer called. They want it fixed within an hour.
Drew, great work. Really enjoyed this. Thanks.
Yep, thanks for stopping by and checking it out.
Keith, this is exhausting. Chris, don't bother. It's done.
Well, we gonna fix it or not?
Keith, you're done. Chris, anything more is just plain.
Okay.
Oz, sorry.
It ate the WPS. I can't get it unhooked again. I may have to pull the intake or struggle back there some more to get it unhooked. Go ahead.
Oz, put a new air freshener and ship it.
I think we can go further.
We are. Billy, remove the dash, cut out bulkhead, remove cylinder head.
You know, the timing gears on these would be so much easier if Toyota would have put a little cutout to get to the cam bolt.
They want to see you do the Superman again.
I might have to, because I really want to get that WPS out of there. because otherwise next time I go to use it, it's going to be dead.
Chris, get your hour. Bryn, those crickets are loud. We are located in Colorado, and I tried to kill the crickets earlier.
Okay.
Sorry, Keith, I'm not going to read your last message.
WPS is out. Whew. All we need is the adapter. I don't know if I want to put a plug back in this and pull another plug to compare it to a known good. We already know that this one is very low on compression. We know it's leaking into the intake. The only other thing we could do at this point is pull the valve cover and check valve clearances to find out if maybe adjusting the valves would buy some time. But at the same time, I believe the valve procedure, the adjustment procedure, calls for pulling the timing cover to pull the camshaft out. So I could probably sneak it out of there, and that's probably what I will do is see if the valve's tight. Since it's our own vehicle now, that is a viable option.
Bryn, you can guess what region I'm in by my yawls. I'm a yaller.
You're a yaller?
I'm a yaller.
Okay, do you guys want to see more tonight? We want to call it a night.
Chris, good thing you need to pull the intake to pull the head.
Yeah, but if I don't pull the head tonight, then I have to push it out of the shop.
Orville, able to leap tall buildings. Kiko, I think.
Wait, if I was Superman with X-ray vision, I could look right in there and see what the problem is. Dang it. Yeah, let me grab a few more tools. Let's just yank this intake off real quick. Now that I have the one bracket off of this side, there should just be the one bracket on the other side. A few bolts up front. I always take the throttle body off the intake just so I don't have to unhook the coolant lines.
Billy, thank you all. Good job. Have a blessed and safe week.
You too. Thanks for watching.
Orville, thank you so much for bringing this to us. The Forest watches. We should get a snapshot of you Supermaning for the SNA auto calendar. Bryn, I'm going back to my lean on me, but thanks for having me.
Yep, thanks for stopping by.
Pico, I would like to see a known good to see the difference.
Okay.
Oz, Keith said put some seafoam.
Run some seafoam in it, see if that takes care of it. Maybe it's just a...
Keith, seafoam fixes everything.
Is that what you guys want me to do? I don't have seafoam here, but I do have BG induction cleaner. We can do that. I got time. I'll have to put that spark plug back in.
Chris, you got it. Congrats. Good night.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. See ya.
I was a little afraid to read Oz's message since he said Keith said. I had to read it a few times in my head to make sure.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put the plug back in.
Keith, nah, you're done, bud. Oz, do it.
Will it be a waste of induction cleaner? Could it just be buildup on the valve? It could be. It's not a GDI vehicle, so I wouldn't suspect build up. And I guess technically the injector should be washing off the intake valve all the time. Oh, now I did it. Got my socket stuck in there. Okay, we gotta pull the intake off anyways.
Because your socket's down there?
Because my socket's stuck. Yep.
Farah, call it a night. Get some rest. Resume next time. Key, fine. Borescope.
Borescope to look in there. I still gotta pull the air intake hose off to get the borescope in there. Well, I guess we could look into the spark plug hole, but I just got my spark plug socket stuck down in the plug well. Is that where you want to go next?
Key, borescope so you can see the missing valve seat, and we're done. I had to snap.
I can't. My brother broke the screen on my borescope yesterday. So Chase, if you're still watching, it's your fault we can't go to the next step. The other borescope I have.
Next step, borrow your dad's. And then we're done. Your dad doesn't have one?
His doesn't have the rearward facing camera. Is that common for these, Keith, to lose a valve seat? Or does it just get beat out? Because we haven't seen too many issues in Colorado with them. Mostly we see ignition coil failure, and that's about it for misfires. This is the first one I've had in here with low compression. But the guy did tell us that at one point Toyota forgot to put the air filter back in during an oil change. Well, he said the dealership. It could have been a different dealership that he bought it from. I'm not saying that it was the Toyota dealership, but they forgot to put the air filter in, and this guy lives on a dirt road. So it potentially dusted the engine. I don't know if that's what caused the damage or not, but it's always possible. Go ahead.
Key, does it have AV output? You always buy Snappy, LOL.
I might be able to connect it to my phone if I can remember how. But yes, it's probably a 4-year-old snap-on borescope. Now the other borescope, I think I do have a clip-on mirror that goes on the end of it. So that is a possibility. Still trying to get my plug out of, or my spark plug socket. This motor ate it.
Oz, Keith and Chad, check your messenger. I sent y'all my new video. Bloopers part 2.
Okay.
Keith, don't worry, PJ left already. Keith, fine. We can just not sleep then. I'm pretty wide awake right now. I just had that coffee.
Yeah, it's getting really late for you, Keith.
12?
Just past 12. Are you still at work? You just cruising around the city? So here's our thoughts for those of you that are still in the chat. Even though I'm in Colorado, me and Valerie are going to go to Pennsylvania.
Did you say and or?
I was stumbling on my words.
Wait, I'm not going. Or just I'm
Valerie's
going.
not going. We're going to Pennsylvania in about a month for Super Saturday. Super excited about that. Valerie's not attending the training She's going to do some other stuff while we're there. But we'll be there for a couple days. And I think we're just going to rent a minivan or something. So if we decide to cruise around, we have, you know, plenty of storage. I think it was like $5 more for a minivan versus a compact vehicle.
Keith, late for me? Laughing face.
I don't even know what time you wake up in the morning, Keith. This is very late for me. Do you have my phone?
No, it's over there on that cart. Pico, 1:10 a.m. here.
10. Is that Nova Scotia? Yeah, that's what you said, right? Earlier?
Yes. Keith, heading home after watching Martino teach a kick-ass class today. Sorry, I read it. Trying to keep my comments.
Making sure I still have the app on my phone.
This is better than anything in the boob tube. Oz, Keith doesn't sleep.
I try to sleep.
Keith, Billy Bins, we know. Might as well bring empty suitcases. She's gonna fill them anyway, Dad. That's the plan.
So it's really hard to see. It's spider webbed. It flipped over. He had it sitting on the intake of a GM V8. It just flopped over, I guess, and hit a little nipple sticking up on the intake, cracked the screen. And since everything is controlled through the touch screen, I can't flip the image of the camera. But if I still remember how, I can connect this to my cell phone. So we'll try that real quick.
Was it cold in here when it happened?
No, it was probably 85 degrees. Laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing at me.
Oh. I get it.
Oh, my brain's tired. I'm not tired. My
Okay,
brain's tired.
we're working on it. We're gonna see if we can connect to it. It seems like last time I tried this, it didn't work great. But
The Forest watches. Yes, you can connect it through the Snap-on Borescope app.
that's what I'm on here. I'll have to
No, I've moved on from empty suitcases, Keith. Oz. So a nipple broke the screen.
nipple broke the screen. Oh, that's really complicated instructions. I have to go into my phone and change the IP address.
The Forest. Same Borescope and app I use. Keith, because she and he know I'm right. Drew, I'm really looking forward to Super Saturday as well.
Yes, we are supposed to bring empty suitcases with us.
Chris, okay, for real, I'm showering and going to bed.
Okay. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, I do get to go to the CarQuest pressure transducer or the pulse sensor training in Colorado here in a couple weeks. So I feel like that'll be a good primer for me because I think
Where's that at?
in Pueblo,
Ah,
I think I'm signed up for Steckler's class. I can't remember what else I signed up for, but it'll get me started. It'll be a good give me good information based on what we're doing here. It's always nice to have that book as a reference. So excited for that.
is there such thing as like a cricket trap?
6, 8. Hold on 1 second. I don't know if that was the right IP address or not.
That was me asking, by the way.
I think they do make cricket traps. We need something. That's really annoying. During the day when we're running air tools, they don't make any noise. Or we just can't hear them. But they're very, very loud. Yeah, I can't get this thing to connect. So, Borescope's out of the picture.
Drew, who is your CTI instructor there?
Tom Smith. It used to be a gentleman by the name of Jason Verdon, I think was his name. But he was going to school at the same time as he's a tech. He was teaching and he was going to school for electrical engineering. And I believe he left the automotive industry to go towards more electrical stuff. So we have a new instructor. I think it's Tom Smith.
Keith, CTI has some great material. My cat eats crickets. He's darn good at it too.
We have a cat that just brings them wherever we're at and lets them go. We have these big moths that I don't know why we have so many of them this year, but they're huge. He brings those in the house and releases them and then runs around the house trying to catch them. So that's always annoying. Well, now what? You want to call it?
It's up to you.
I think we'll call it. We know that we're leaking past the intake valve into the intake. The only other thing that I could do is check the valve clearances and put a thinner shim in if the clearance is tight, see if that improves anything, but more than likely I'm going to have to drop the engine out the bottom, pull the cylinder heads off. I believe when I looked it up, it was a 23 or 24 hour job.
Pico, very generic name. Keith, call it.
Okay, we're going to call it. Yeah, Tom Smith.
Who's the guy from Pocahontas? Isn't that his name?
John Smith.
Ah.
It's his brother. His brother's John Smith. Okay. So I appreciate you guys sticking around so late. I know we got started late, plus this was a extended diagnostic process. Give you guys a heads up, when I did this a month ago, Sonar 1 Misfire, I stuck the wand back there, I had ignition pulse, and then, because I didn't hear the cadence change right away, and then the second time I cranked it over, I kind of heard something, so I undid the fuel injectors, cranked it over again, noticed the distinct change. Hearing voices. And performed a leak down test. I just pulled the intake manifold. The customer approved an extra hour or whatever it was, and it was leaking into the intake manifold. I didn't see any physical damage to it. My Borescope was working at the time, but I didn't see anything wrong with the seat. He told us to stop right there, and he was going to try and trade it in. They only offered him like $500 on trade, so he decided that he was going to wait and think about it. Then he ended up buying a car somewhere else. Go ahead.
Yep, leaking past the valves because the seat is cracked. Keith. Good night, everyone. Be sure
Okay.
to sub to valve 2. Thanks, Keith.
Okay, thanks, Keith. See ya.
Chad, awesome demonstration and awesome that you worked along with the comments.
Hopefully we'll have a chance to do more videos like this. Maybe they'll be a little smoother. I'll get a few bugs worked out of the computer. I might bring my other computer down here and get it set up just for this process. We're lacking inputs on the laptop to run additional cameras, but we'll get the display capture working so we can work with the Waveform overlay tool. And it'd be really cool if we have a vehicle at least once a month or something to do a live stream, if not more often. We don't normally, me and Valerie normally don't have a whole lot going on, at least in the evenings. So it'll be a good chance for us to come down here and share this stuff with you guys. So thanks for watching.
Sorry, do you want the last
Go
comments
ahead.
that came in? The Forest Watches. Customer states they can get it done for half that time from their mechanic. Christopher Barone. Not a bad job. Easy to drop the engine. Pico, great job, was fun. I should do a live stream and have the comments guide me along. Pico.
I really liked it. Since not everyone can be here in person, I think that was a great way to interact. Some of the other shops in town, we had a meeting a while back, and they decided that we should do like a shop night, one night a month or something, where we just kind of meet up, and any problem vehicles that we have, we can kind of work together as a group. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it'd be kind of a cool thing to do. All the guys on the East Coast had the Staten Island meetup. We didn't get the opportunity to go out there for that, but this is kind of another way for you guys to join in the process. Then we learn something, you learn something, and we all have some fun together. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you for watching.
Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys come around for more videos and future live streams. I'm going to jump over here and get everything turned off. Have a good night. If you're out there driving, drive safe. Watch out for the crazies. Keith, if you're still on the road and still listening, you gotta be careful.
Wear your seatbelt.
Valerie says wear your seatbelt.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Wear your seatbelt. Done.